Welcome back, guys. So, if you can believe it, we're about at the halfway mark now of going through all these modes. So, we've covered the Ionian or Major, the Dorian, and the Phrygian, and now we're on what I would consider my favorite mode, and that's the Lydian mode. Just for the ease of the video, by the way, I know we've been doing the majority of these in the key of C, C major. We're going to be playing in the key of B today, so that way we can play in E Lydian, and there's a reason for that, and I'll get to that a little later in the video. But so the Lydian is the fourth mode of the major scale, and so that being the case, it starts in the fourth degree of the scale. So we're back in a major sounding key this time. And what makes this mode interesting is the fact that, unlike the major mode, we have a raised or sharp fourth in this one. So it kind of gives it sort of like a dreamy, kind of a floaty, sort of otherworldly kind of sound to it. And it's a very popular mode for progressive musicians, such as, like, say, Dream Theater or Rush, or, well, I mean, really any of those bands like that. And there's quite a bit of pop music that uses the Lydian mode, and they don't even realize they're using it. So we'll go ahead and get down to business. The Lydian mode looks an awful lot like the major mode, with the one exception. So let me show you what the scale pattern looks like. So as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and play the major mode one more time for you guys so you can kind of see the comparison between the two. So the major would be like this. But in the Lydian mode, we have that raised fourth here. So that's the difference is between this note and this note. So already you can see that there's kind of a cool thing you can do with this mode. There's this, having that raised fourth, you have what's called a tritone. Let me go ahead and play that for you. So I'm sure that kind of evokes the thought of, like, say, European siren or something like that. And as a matter of fact, most sirens in most countries use a tritone like that because it's a very alarming, kind of disturbing kind of sounding interval in between those two notes. But that's what makes the Lydian mode kind of interesting, is you have that tritone, so you can do cool sort of moves with it and kind of, really spice up your playing, even though it's in a major sounding key. So that's what the chord shape, that's what the scale shape looks like, and that's how you would do the pattern. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the chords you would want to use. So again, it being a major mode, you're going to start with a major chord, and in this case, and this is why I chose to play it in the key of B, is because E major would be your first chord in this case. Now, unlike a lot of other modes or other scales that you might use, the Lydian one is unique because your first two chords are major chords. So in this case, you would have E major and F sharp major. Let me play those for you. But a very common move that I hear in a lot of progressive music, and if that's what you're interested in playing using this mode, is instead of playing that F sharp the way I just showed you, just lift the top part of your hand up and leave the B and the E string to ring open, and you get this kind of sound. See, it's a little more dreamy and a little more full and ethereal, and that's because you're really taking advantage of the fact that you have that raised fourth in that chord, so it kind of gives it more of that dreamier kind of sound and that feel. So if you really want to get the most out of Lydian, do that chord change right there, the 1 to the 2. Otherwise, you can use the fourth in here. That's totally fine. So you can play something like this. But yeah, I mean, the more mileage you would get out of that was to maybe 1 2 to 4 or 1 4 to 2. I'll show you what those sound like. Or something like that. And keep in mind too, with this mode too, you have a lot of flexibility. You can do cool things like you can either play the major chord if you like, or in that case, I played an A suspended 2. Those kind of things sound great in a Lydian mode, just simply because it even pushes that sort of otherworldly kind of feel. So, yeah, you can use the 1, you can use the 2, you can use the 4, you can use the 5. I wouldn't recommend it, but I would probably say, for the most part, I would probably stay away from the 3 chord in this one, because if you use it, it kind of loses the feel of Lydian, because it's a minor chord, and you really don't want to muddy up the sound of a Lydian progression with that. The other cool thing you can do with these chords too is you can take full advantage of the fact that you have that raised fourth. So you could just play a regular E like that. But what I like to do with this is I like to play it more with this kind of shape, because you get the raised fourth and the seventh in that chord. I know it's a little jarring on its own, but in context, it actually sounds pretty cool. So, like, if you play the same kind of chord changes that I just showed you a minute ago. See, it kind of gives it a little bit more of that sort of feel to it. So, but yeah, I mean, as you can see just in the examples I showed you in this video and everything, progressive music is very common for this. There's certain pop songs, like the one that comes to mind is the Police's Ghost in the Machine, what's on the Ghost in the Machine album. It's Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic. That entire bass line is a Lydian bass line, so it's used everywhere, and I don't know, to me it's one of the more pleasing modes that there is. So, alright guys, well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up with that. I'll give you guys a brief jam track like I always do to kind of show you what you can do with this mode. And next week we're going to talk about the Lydian mode, which is similar to this one, but comes with its own differences, as the rest of them have in the past. So, alright, you guys have a good week, and have fun learning these modes.